Well, Buster, I guess it's just you and I today.
Just the two of us, Don.
Just the two of us. Isn't that a song?
I believe so.
Or something close to that anyway.
Let's get us a karaoke machine
There
up
you
here.
go.
Look longingly into each other's eyes.
Bill's unable to join us today on the podcast. Bill's wife is having some health issues and some complications from a surgery she had a while back, and he's home tending to her, and we sure
Let's keep them in our thoughts and prayers.
absolutely keep him remembered, and hopefully he'll be back soon.
Well, Don, how has your week been? I know it's been a very wet, messy week.
It's a wet, messy, hot week. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the middle of summer, as we've mentioned several times on this podcast, in Georgia, and it's hot, and we're actually in the middle of dog days of summer.
Really? I thought that was just something they used to describe this time of year for the baseball season. That's
No, it's actually referring to the weather. It's between July and September, and it's usually very humid, and it's usually very hot. And if you add those two things together, it's plain old miserable.
Oh, man.
I am told the folklore goes that if you have a dry dog days, that you'll have a happy year in the following year. And if you have wet and stormy, then look out. Next year's not be a wild ride. And so we've certainly had storms and rain and all of the above over the last few weeks. So I guess 2025 may be a barnstormer.
Well, I mean, between that and what all the pundits are saying about this year's election, I guess maybe it will be, but I don't know. I had the day off this past Thursday. I had no deliveries at any of my stores for my other job. So I woke up on Thursday. It was nice. It was sunny, very hot. I managed to get out to the pool by about 12 o'clock. Swam a little bit, got some sun for about an hour, and I don't know, I'd been out of the pool for about 30 minutes and the bottom just fell out. The sky, very, very dark gray. And to your point, it's been that way here in Cleveland and up in Salty for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, backing up a bit, we try not to be politically bent on this podcast, but I would like to say, regardless of what political party you might be for or against, or what your political thoughts are, I'll be glad when this is over.
You and me both.
I'll be just happy to turn on the news in the morning and they're talking about
a bank robbery in Atlanta,
or a pipe burst at the water main burst at the city water plant or something. It is a bit overwhelming, I would say.
I don't know if it's a process of getting older, if every generation goes through this, or maybe, it's just something I deal with as a millennial. But I feel like the older I get, the more I want to unplug from the news. Like, you need to know what's going on in the world around you, but there is knowing too much. And unfortunately, when it's election season, you can't run from it.
You can't anymore. I mean, I think the nonsense that goes on and the whole process has been going on forever. It's just they didn't have as many ways to cram it down your throat. Now you're right. You can't escape.
Well, on a lighter note, you were telling me before we went live that you had a heck of a tomato sandwich this week.
My favorite thing in this time of year is a tomato sandwich, and if you're from the South, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, you ought to try one because they're fantastic.
All right.
But the ingredients are pretty simple. First of all, you have to get a really, really vine-ripe, homegrown tomato.
Yes.
And you slice it extra thick.
Oh, you go thick slices.
I go thick slices.
Okay, all right. That's where we kind of differ.
Okay, well, everybody has their way, but the second ingredient is you have to have a very, very fresh loaf of white bread.
All right, what brand you going with?
I usually go with Sunbeam is my go-to, and I usually go with the thin slice on the tomato sandwich, the thin sliced bread and the thicker tomato. And then, most important, is a great big dose of mayonnaise.
All right, what are you going with in that?
I'm going to go with two. I'm going to go with Duke's mayonnaise. It's number one, and a very close second is Blue Plate mayonnaise.
That's what my family was growing up, but I've converted to Duke's as an adult. Now I'm like you, and you had a look on your face when I said I like a thin sliced tomato. Now you're probably thinking, okay, this kid doesn't put it hardly. I probably have just as much tomatoes on my sandwich as you do. I just prefer 6 thinner slices versus 3 thicker ones.
Gotcha.
But I'm like you, I like to slather on the mayo, load that thing up with fresh tomatoes, and you always got to go with some salt and pepper on there too.
And the meal is complete.
Yes.
And then,
And if you got a real good tomato, that sandwich is falling apart on you about halfway through because that tomato juice is just
it's all over the place. And
Bring a
that's-
napkin.
That's when you've achieved perfection. And I would like to, particularly, again, this time of year, we have corn coming in. We have sweet corn.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the local farmers grow. And we buy that, we're able to get that fresh and shuck that and boil an ear of that and eat a ear of corn with your tomato sandwich. I'm telling you, if you haven't had those things, you need to try it. You're missing out.
Now, when you eat corn on the cob, you just take it in your hands, or do you get those little things that you put
No,
in,
I just take it
like
in
a
my
little
hands.
dainty, you know?
There's
part of-
nothing dainty about it. I don't care what you hold it with. So I'm just going in.
Oh man, you said y'all are doing corn this year, right?
We're growing Indian corn, which is a decorative corn, multicolored.
So you can't throw that in a pot and boil it.
I mean, I guess they did. I don't think I would recommend it. What they did do is they ground it into meal and made things from that way. But mostly it's grown just to dry and be decorative, something you would display in your centerpiece on your
Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanksgiving cornucopia, whatever you have. But we're going to see. We might try to boil one and let you check it out and see if it's edible.
Hey, I've got a long-standing policy for any on-air jobs I do. If there's something you want me to taste, bring it on up. I'll give it a shot.
We also planted some popcorn, and that is designed for consumption. So it won't be long. About another, about another 75 days, we should be having those ready to harvest, and we'll drag them in here and dry them out and see what happens.
So now we're here to the dog days. Summer still got a little bit left, but the light at the end of the tunnel is getting a little bit brighter. And for me, the first thing I think about football season is just around the corner.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned you're a proud UGA alum.
Yeah, I'm so proud. I almost named my children Herschel and Walker. But
Our producer's rolling his eyes right now.
But yeah, public school started back here in White County yesterday, and most of the surrounding counties are starting up, and that just means fall football is around the corner,
Oh man, I can't wait.
and that's my favorite time of year. When it cools off a bit and we get into the SEC football is my favorite time. But then I'm not so much a hunter, but we do have a lot of folks around here that are really into hunting, and hunting season is going to be cranking up right after that. And between those two things, people will be pretty busy for the rest of the year.
Now you say you're not much of a hunter. Have you ever gone hunting before?
Yes, I do a little bit of bird hunting, a little bit of quail hunting.
Now, I'm an ignoramus. What kind of What kind of gun do you take out for bird hunting, quail hunting?
Well, most of this is done south of here, middle Georgia, and further south, and they have big farms, big plantations there, where they manage the land just for hunting, and most of the birds are put out. They're farm raised. They're not
Gotcha.
raised in the wild. They're farm raised birds, but they're put out in that environment, in that habitat, and then you hunt those fields. And but you would use most places you would use a 20 gauge shotgun to hunt the quail with.
Now you just got like a normal, again, pardon my ignorance, just like a normal shotgun shell for that, or do you use special bird shot?
Some of the plantations require that you have a steel shot only.
Gotcha.
They don't want the lead in the dirt, trees, or whatever after you shoot. So they're picky about that. But the caliber that's just what you want. I personally shoot a 28 gauge,
Gotcha.
which is a smaller gauge gun. It's between a 20 and a 410 gauge shotgun, and it's lighter. It's easier to carry around, but you got to be a better shot. You don't have as much firepower as you do with a 20 gauge. One guy I hunt with, he brings a 12 gauge. Most of the time, you can't identify the target after he shoots it. So, but yeah, that's the extent of my hunting. I did go deer hunting once,
Oh, really?
and that was enough for me.
What happened?
I got up. It was an early Sunday morning, and the children were young, and they had spent the night away at grandparents or friends, or I don't remember, but they weren't there. And their rooms were upstairs.
All right.
And my wife and I, bedroom is downstairs, and we were there alone, and she was sleeping late, or maybe not late, but she was still sleeping. I got up and walked through the house, and I looked out the back window, and there's a big buck standing in the pasture behind our house. And I didn't think much about it because I wasn't really into hunting, so I made a pot of coffee and sat around, read paper for a few minutes, and walked back through, and he's still standing there. And I said, well, this is a sign. This is meant to be. So it took me another 30 minutes to find a gun and find shells, bullets, and finally did. And I go outside, and I've got on a pair of boxer shorts and a pair of penny loafers, and that's it. And so I'm creeping around the house, and I can't see the deer anymore. And so he had gone over a little ridge, and so I needed to get higher to be able to see him, like if you were in a deer stand.
Do you even have a robe on, or is it just legit, just penny
No,
loafers
it's
and
just
boxers?
legit. Now, I live out in the country, and it's not close by to many neighbors. But anyway, so I think for a minute. I say, all right, kids are not home. I'll go upstairs and see if I can get a better view out of the window.
All right.
So I go upstairs with my deer rifle and my boxer shorts and penny loafers, and I get up there into the room. I raise the window, and I've got this just perfect.
You can see him
line.
right there.
I can just. I mean, it's probably 200 yards, but it's just a straight shot, nothing in the way. And
Now, what's your gun?
it's a 30-30
All right.
rifle.
So you're up in the kids' room,
And-
boxers and penny loafers.
And my recommendation before I tell you what the outcome was is never shoot a deer rifle inside your house
Okay. All right.
or from inside your house. But
Life pro tip right there.
if you shoot a deer rifle from inside your house, warn everyone else inside your house before you do that. Because when I pulled the trigger, the deer fell in its tracks, shocked me worse than it did the deer. But my wife is downstairs, and she thinks I've shot myself or shot an intruder or something. And so she comes barreling up, and there I'm standing there with a rifle and my boxer shorts, my penny loafers. So I run out because I don't know if it's dead or not. This is how equipped I was. I grabbed a steak knife out of the kitchen drawer.
Lord.
So I run it out there. Well, I get out there, and he's done for. He's out. And so I realized I got to have help. So I called a friend of mine who was an avid hunter, and I told him, I said, killed a deer. And he said, what'd you do that for? I said, well, I just couldn't help it. It just sort of happened. And he said, well, what do you need? And I said, well, what do you have to have?
Oh,
And he
Lord.
started naming off all these things, these license and stamps and tags and things. And I said, well, I don't have any of that. You need to bring all of it.
So just to back up just a little bit, you just were having Saturday morning coffee one morning and just saw a deer out in your yard and was like, I'm going to hunt this thing. And not only am I not going to put any camo or get any of the requisite licenses, I'm going to go upstairs to my kid's bedroom in my PJs and we'll shoot it out their window.
Pretty much.
All right, continue.
So he comes and within a few hours, we have it off at the processor and all put to bed, and all of that was a lot of hard work and a lot more than I ever wanted to do again. So I am a one-time, one-shot, 100% perfect record. So I quit right there.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. You got you some deer meat, you got you an 8-pointer, and you got you a heck of a story out of it.
That's right. And I can't hear out of my left ear.
Well, you know. Blame it on that. Ignore the drums as a youngster. Well, Don, I don't think we can top that this week.
Well, I don't know.
That's a heck of a story. If I had a hunting story, I'd bring it to the table. I guess my grandpa saw me eating a sandwich limp-wristedly and just decided that was nothing to waste his time on. So no hunting stories for me.
Yeah.
But
I don't think we had very many hunters in our family, but it is big for a lot of folks, and they're going to get their chance soon.
heck yeah. Well, that's been another week here on the Front Porch Podcast. We do it every week up here at the Old Salty Store. For Don Allison, I'm Buster Talent. We'll see y'all next week.
See you, Buster.